There's only so many pro days to get through before the NFL draft gets here. A couple of private ones are scheduled, but a lot of the big boys are completed. This past week, we had a Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, a private workout from him. We had LSU, Ohio State, Pittsburgh, Ole Miss, Texas, Virginia Tech. Lots of big pro days were completed this past week. This is our third iteration of the Pro Day season podcast here in the Draft Ranking Show. We're going to talk through it sub 10 minutes. Keep it tight, keep it concise, give you all the stuff that I'm looking for when I'm digging through all of these Pro Day nuggets. Shout out to Alex Katzen for collecting all of this data and perusing it. He's a great guy, great follow on Twitter, and a great patron to go out there and check after. He collects all this data, vets it all, and plugs it into a database. Let's get into it. To remind you guys, when I go through Pro Day data, and I'm talking about it right here on the screen, or on YouTube, or on podcast, whatever, I'm scrolling through looking for certain traits, certain numbers, certain athletic feats. I haven't watched some of these guys. I'm going to tell you a guy that I haven't talked about. I haven't heard about him before, right? It's going to be a guy that the number pops off the screen, and now I go out, I find out who he is, I dig into him a little bit deeper. Winston Wright, wide receiver, East Carolina. I don't know who he is. I don't have a height or a weight on him, but he ran a 4.43, a 4.12 shuttle, a 34-inch vertical. Good numbers. I got to check it out. I got to dig a little bit deeper on Winston Wright. I also got to find out how damn tall he is, how much heavy he is. If he's 6'8", if he's 350, or if he's 5'11 and 180. I don't know. I'm assuming probably the latter. But nonetheless, let's jump into it. A couple of the big ones that did come out from the Texas Pro Day. Jaden Blue, Silas Bolden. We had Isaiah Bond run again. Gavin Holmes, cornerback from Texas, did not get the NFL Combine invite. He ran a 4.40 at a 39-inch vertical at cornerback. A guy that I was talking to, actually, I do some work for Orange Bloods. I was talking to somebody, and they said that, this is a guy probably not going to get drafted, probably a 7th-round guy if he does. But they pointed to teams, special teams, for a guy like Gavin Holmes. The athleticism was apparent. He also played quite a bit this past season. A name that people kind of maybe have forgotten about that resurfaced. He had some off-field stuff earlier this spring. Kyron Lacey, the wide receiver from LSU, was at the Pro Day this week. 6'2", 215 pounds, 10-inch hands, 80.5-inch wingspan for Kyron Lacey. And yes, he did run in the 40-yard dash. The 40-yard dash completed for Kyron Lacey was a 4.6 flat. So that translates, again, you put the 0.05 on, it's a 4.65. His shuttle was 4.43, vertical was 33.5. Not the best numbers for Kyron Lacey, but from an arm wingspan perspective, he had the third longest wingspan among guys we've looked at this year. The top wingspan among receivers is Isaiah Nair, 83.1/8-inch wingspan. The second longest is Savion Williams at 87.8. And now Kyron Williams comes in, like I just said, with 80.5-inch. Pretty solid. Longer than Mason Taylor, who's a tight end for LSU as well, who's 6'5". Kyron Lacey had a little bit longer wingspan than did he. Everybody want to talk about this Will Campbell arm length thing. He was at sub 33 inches at the combine, exactly 33 inches at the Senior Bowl, or at the not the Senior Bowl, at the Pro Day. I don't know. I find it all interesting that the Senior Bowl and the Pro Days were much different than the combine. There's a rumor going around that the guy that measured at the combine was doing it wrong and unwilling to admit his fault, which I find very odd, but it is what it is. Ohio State had their pro day, and a number we've been kind of looking at, Emeka Egbuka. He came in at 201 pounds, and he ran a 4.45. So that translates to a 4.50 unofficial pro day number for us. It's official, but it's unofficial because it's not a combine number, right? So we add that 0.05 onto it. And if you're wondering why I say 0.05 adding on to these pro day numbers, you can go on over to X. I have the tweet in response. I think I'll pin it after this show, but we did historical data research over at Player Profiler a couple of years ago, and historically, wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends are between 0.5 and 0.8, 0.08, sorry, 0.08. So a 4.45 is a 4.50 when you add that 0.05. Historically, that's how off pro day numbers are. between Pro Day and Combine if somebody ran both. I hope that makes sense. As I continue to dig in through here, one massive number that popped out was Konata Mumpfield, receiver from Pittsburgh, 5'11", 187, came in with small hands, but he ran a three cone of 6.69, which is the second best three cone of the process after Tez Johnson at the wide receiver position. Tez Johnson had a 6.65 three cone. We had Konata Mumpfield this week at the Pittsburgh Pro Day ran a 6.69. Jalen Lane had a 6.75 at the combine. Jacoby George a 6.77. Daniel Jackson 6.78. Those were the guys that were sub 6.8. That is a fantastic three cone number for Konata Mumpfield, the guy that popped at the Shrine Bowl. He also had a 4.19 shuttle, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Let's scroll through here. What else do we got? We got a receiver from UMass, Jacoby Keeney James. Jacoby Keeney James. So if I look him up, let's go to the UMass website. The UMass website, he played at UMass, has him at 6'1", 195 pounds, a previous transfer from Eastern Washington, Jacoby Keeney James. I don't have stats. Looks like he accumulated 840 receiving yards and 50 catches and 6 touchdowns in 2024. Pretty solid stat line. His pro day was a 4.37 40-yard dash. So that turns into a 4.42. That's very good. 6.85 three cone, 4.05 shuttle, 40.5-inch vertical, a 10'6" broad jump. Oh, we can cook with this. I'm writing down Jacoby Keeney James, and I'm probably calling my boy Maddie up. I'm gonna see if he's got any inside scoop on Jacoby Keeney James up there in UMass. Naquan Wright from USF, a running back, runs a 4.38. That's interesting. We got a running back from Western Kentucky here. We got a couple more minutes left. Running back from Western Kentucky, Elijah Young. Western Kentucky. Just for those listening and to know this, when I pull this Pro Day thing up and I do this Pro Day season show, I don't prepare. I do not prepare for this show. I pull up the database of Pro Day numbers and I scroll through and I look for guys that stand out, pop off the screen from a number standpoint. I expressed that earlier, but I just want y'all to know I do not know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm looking at. Elijah Young, previously Missouri, 5'10" running back from Western Kentucky. He comes into his pro day this last week, runs a 4.38, has a 6.98 three cone, 4.20 shuttle, almost an 11-foot broad jump. Elijah Young, checking on that tape. Bashal Tootin comes in with a 24 bench rep. Wow, that's pretty good. Bashal Tootin, the running back from Virginia Tech. We also have Antoine Powell-Ryland, edge rusher from Virginia Tech, with a 40-inch vertical coming off the edge there. That's a pretty impressive number for the national sack leader this past year. All right, let's see if we find anything else here. Anybody run? Lathan Ransom at a 4.53. I thought I read he ran faster than that this last week. Josh Williams, the running back from LSU, at a 4.45 at 196 pounds. 42-inch vertical. Wow, that's a big vertical for a guy that didn't. I mean, I guess he ran pretty solid. Let's see here. Who else has got? Not a great three cone for Christopher Fortin from UConn. 8.14. If that's an official number, I think it might be. I probably wouldn't have run if I was him. Let's see if there's anything from Louisville. Ashton Galate, the edge rusher from Louisville, 4.63 40, 6.9 4 three cone, pretty solid. Galate, another pass rush specialist from Louisville. I think you'll probably hear his name called on the back end of day 2, probably early day 3. Northern Iowa held their pro day this last week. Nothing really pops off the screen there. Nobody overly. I guess we had one guy jump out of the building. Robbie Peterson Jr., cornerback, Northern Iowa. He had a 4.62, but he coupled in a 38.5-inch vertical, 10'10" on the broad jump. All right, let's see if we can find one more guy before we get out of the building here for this one. I'm not going to talk about the Xavier Restrepo number. I don't think the 4.83 was real. I guess we can answer that question. I don't think the 4.83 was real. I think he was actually injured. He said he popped his hamstring. I believe him. I do think he popped his hamstring as well. And let's just finish it out with this. Two things. Tetairoa McMillan came in with a 4.53. I heard 4.55. I heard 4.62. I heard everything for Tetairoa McMillan. The number I'm putting in the database, they gave us 4.55. That came up from multiple sources as official inside building. So I'm going 4.55 with the adjustment of 0.05. So it's going to be a 4.60. And then Cam Skattebo came out with a 4.65 this week. That's going to adjust to a 4.70 for Cam Skattebo. Do not run out the best case scenario. If you guys have listened to the show, you guys know how I feel about people running out the best case scenario for both of these prospects. I think they're both very good football players, but for Ted McMillan and Cam Skattebo, treat those 40s as they are. 4.70 at running back. It's not a death sentence, but it ain't great.